President Trump announcing a deal with Pfizer. The drug maker will be selling medication directly to consumers through a new website that's called Trump RX. The company won't face pharma-specific tariffs as long as it invests in U.S. manufacturing. Joining us right now is John Lamattina. He is a senior partner at Pure Tech Health, and he's also the author of multiple books on the industry, including Pharma and Profits, Balancing Innovation, Medicine, and Drug Prices. He's also the former president of Pfizer Global Research and Development. He has no ties to the company currently, although he does own some Pfizer shares. John, thank you, first of all, for being here this morning. I think a lot of people are trying to figure out what this move yesterday means. Drug company stocks were up yesterday. Who benefits from this? Who is potentially at risk?
So certainly, if you want to get Americans to agree on one thing, everybody pretty much across the board, both sides of the aisle, very much worried about drug pricing and want to see drug prices come down. That started with the Inflation Reduction Act in the last administration, where price controls were set for the first time in Medicare, Medicaid, and now you get to seeing the same thing with Trump RX and what's going on there. What's fascinating about this, and Pfizer stressed, by the way, in their press release that this was totally voluntary. What's fascinating is that they are pledging to not launch any new drugs at different prices than in Western Europe, for example. They are, as you said, pledging major investment in infrastructure, and they're pledging to be part of Trump RX. The Trump RX piece is fascinating. I think your viewers may know that drug companies get less than 50% of what the list price of these drugs are. Much of the costs go to pharmacy benefits managers and other middlemen. Trump RX, and then the Pharmaceutical Research Manufacturing Association is also setting up their own website starting in the new year. I think that's called americasmedicines.com, where people will be able to go directly to these websites and pay the price that basically Pfizer or these other companies might have gotten. The point you made about the impact on drug stocks, I think it depended on which company. Pfizer doesn't, and I think Merck as well, don't necessarily have a large portion of their drugs sold through Medicare, Medicaid patients. But other companies that do have extensive Medicare, Medicaid prescriptions probably saw some kind of an effect.
I guess if you try and figure out, first of all, what this means for the pharmacy benefits managers, does this mean their model is upended? What does it do for the insurance companies' models? Because a lot of times they will subsidize one expensive drug through another one by raising prices on others. Do all of those models fall apart under this?
You'd have to see how this plays out, but certainly that would be the first concern one should have, and if you're interested in those companies. And that
should we be if you're interested in those companies? Oh, I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
If Pfizer is going directly to patients, and patients are being able to get their drugs in that fashion, this is pretty devastating, I would think, to PBMs, insurance companies, et cetera.
The one thing that we have heard is this complaint that Albert Bourla brought up yesterday at the White House as well, that, look, it's not fair that Americans have been subsidizing drug costs for the rest of the world, including developed nations, for a very long time. If you look at the prices of drugs, particularly in Europe, they pay much less for them. When you hear President Trump talk about this, he says, we're going to bring our prices down so it matches the Europeans. And the drug company CEOs will come back and say, yes, we're going to make sure they match too. But I think they mean that they're going to try and raise the prices in Europe and other developed nations. How does that play out?
That's a great point. And so just recently, Bristol Myers Squibb announced that their new antipsychotic drug, Cobenfy, is going to be sold in Europe at the same prices that will be sold in the United States. So a lot of this doesn't necessarily mean prices will come down. The U.S. will be taking a big hit lowering prices in the U.S., but rather some kind of fair balance between Western nations, developed Western nations, and the United States, so that this large penalty and support, really, that the Americans have paid for drug R&D will be shared across the way. Now, one worry I do have, and being an R&D guy, you would expect this, is that regardless of what happens, there's going to be less income for drug companies. It's that they can't help to have some impact. And that's sad because 25% of all drug sales, not profit sales, go into R&D. So if you cut the industry's income by $100 billion, that's $25 billion less for R&D. And to give you perspective, that's about 60% of the NIH's budget for R&D. So it's a pretty substantial amount, and we're going to see an impact there. And from an R&D standpoint, I think that's unfortunate.
Okay, that makes sense. John, I want to shift gears and talk a little bit about the FDA's move last week to basically tell the parents of kids with autism that leucovorin could be a very useful drug in terms of helping their kids better communicate, better be able to speak maybe more if you're nonverbal autistic. That is a message that went out to parents everywhere. I will say I have a nonverbal daughter with autism too. I was shocked. I met with my neurologist on Monday for a routine appointment. She was kind of saying that this is a good thing to do, suggesting that I try it. When I tried to get the medicine yesterday, I was told by CVS that you basically can't get it. There are two suppliers of this, AmerisourceBergen and McKesson. And because of the huge demand that's come out since then, it's really hard to come by. This was a decision that was released by the White House. I don't think the manufacturers were given time to ramp this up. And if you look into it, leucovorin is used by a lot of patients who have cancer or rheumatoid arthritis. If you're taking methotrexate, you need leucovorin to offset some of the bad side effects that come along with that. And if you can't get it for a child with autism, that means you probably can't get it if you're a cancer patient at this point, too. How big of a problem is this?
So that's an unfortunate situation. You're exactly right. Leucovorin is a generic compound. It's been known for decades. It's used to mitigate toxicities from when you have to take methotrexate, be it a cancer patient or a rheumatoid arthritis patient, as a derivative of folic acid. So although all drugs have side effects, it's relatively safe. There haven't been definitive studies about leucovorin in autism. However, there are anecdotal cases where that suggest that there could be a beneficial effect. But the effect of the White House announcement is not surprising in that being a generic drug is really treated more like a commodity. There are not huge supplies of it because there's never usually an expected demand. It's pretty much a fixed market. So now when an enormous demand occurs, it's just happened, you're going to get some shortages. My belief is that the manufacturers will step up and you'll be able to get more production, but it may take a little bit of a while.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about it. If this is the demand crisis that's put up in a week from the FDA doing that, if you have more people on autism who are trying to get this every week, what happens 30 days from now when the prescriptions run out? What happens for the rest of these? How quickly can manufacturing ramp up?
Well, I'm not a manufacturing expert, but my guess is that something can happen within a finite period of time, whether it's 30 days or 60 degrees. I don't know. But my guess is you'll see that happen pretty quickly.